No, really, I'm just gonna come with that one, that's like a that farm thing, I think.
Yeah. What's that?
No, just a different thing.
Oh, really? Right. It is what it is. Moved on.
What it is, you can make sure it got, I know it's not the same.
That's exactly right.
Just thinking ahead here, not leaning in one direction, we don't have that. I have to be good. I miss my job.
Hey, Mr. Williams.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I was making sure you had your hand down. I figured you were right-handed, so that's exactly.
She has
what
to.
it was. Just a match.
I was in court this afternoon, but it's more like a non-stop. But my days are non-stop. I have those.
Sure.
And where it catches up when you make the intersection. Normally I don't, but this one, but this one I don't. Normally they do it themselves. She might be able to go Ms. Forsyth, I want to make sure everybody sees this and, so make the street policy stand. I think it's just funny when she comes out. I got my hammer and nails, so I'm good to go.
Poison ivy never scared anybody.
Whatever chivers, I just like the way. I don't, there probably will be, but, I did the tax map, and I showed that there's 9 subdivisions in that area. So this should be a given, and it's gonna be nice, the streets will be there. Those big lots are gonna be a plus in the back. Very nice, cause that's Bush Creek. Thank y'all. Y'all my backbone.
Brains of the operation.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I'm not.
Well, they do have a place.
Oh, that's fun. How you doing?
How you doing?
Good.
How you doing? Hey, Jim.
All right.
I'm good.
Hello. How you doing?
Mr. Terry, how are you?
Hey, Jim. I didn't speak to you this afternoon.
How are you?
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Good.
Tired today, but I'm okay.
Good to see you.
It takes two of me to do this job.
Miss Anna.
She's doing really good.
Yeah.
Charleston, or not lives in Mount Pleasant, but works at the Medical University of South Carolina,
Learn
Charleston.
something every day.
Anna's doing very well. And I forget it the next. You make it to the next day.
Well, if I haven't learned, all I gotta do is call Mike, and then I've learned something.
That's what I do. You know, I'll say, that's what I was talking about a while ago. I said, Mike will say something, I'll learn something, and then when they ask me, I'll say, I don't know, but I know Mike knows, because
Because he told me.
I may need y'all to start reminding me now.
Yeah.
What did I say? We're so smart.
I'll need a bottle of water, so you can look in
No, I'm fine, thank you. I will say too, we used to do well. I wish we'd had a bigger crowd to see how you acted there. Wish we'd had a smaller crowd now.
Actually, the cities don't, I think it would just be the cities don't issue bonds on the cities. I think that's right, yeah. I remember you told me that, it was, I know it was in.
No, I got the leadership.
The county issue bonds, it would make no impact on their, unlike the regular funds, the state, does not include the city's portion each month in sinking funds or bonds, so it would not affect their monthly payment if it changes.
One day,
That's what it is.
Tracy's watching out for heading off, it's not on the schedule for
This
something.
is my, supervisor, Toby. She was in Madison County, Linda is
Some
So, yeah.
And whatever else.
And one of them,
Adam actually does a lot of our gardens come through that. He's always just.
there was two that.
I met him, the lead athlete for class deal. That was probably about 10 years. Yeah. You got one of your folks, yeah.
I mean, that time was
Yep.
Now, Blair's, that was pretty good. Except for that initial orientation, that was the first one.
The idea was to take that walk.
Oh, that's what that was.
I took one the other day.
Mark Dalton. Sorry, I lost my temper.
I'll keep that in mind next time I ask you to call it. The biggest thing is to be a bug. Yeah, wow. Biggest deal is the medium.
Oh, okay. Blue sheets with it. Some of them got blue, some of them got blue.
No. You can stop right there. Okay. We're gonna do a chairman's report, but I'll tell you what it is when we get
I got one more left. All right. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Madison County Board of Commissioners regular business meeting, June 28th, 2021 at 6:05 p.m. Notably, it's my fault that we're late. We had to tour one of the buildings down here. I appreciate y'all's patience with us tonight. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You have before you the minutes from May 24th, 2021 regular business meeting and the minutes from June 7th, agenda setting work session. take a minute to look over those. If there's no discrepancies, I'll ask for a motion to adopt both sets of minutes from May 24th and June 7th.
Will the minutes be approved?
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Chandler, second by Mr. Doster. All in
Yes.
favor?
Yes.
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 Thank you, gentlemen. Business involving guest groups, multiple visitors. Jennifer Ivy. Come on up, young lady.
Thank you so much for having me on the agenda tonight. Everybody has a copy of my report, so I'll run through the highlights of that real quick. This is the first quarter of 2021, so January through March. So we were not open full hours, and we were open about 20 hours a week during this time period. We had over 5,000 patron visits. Our computer use was up almost 15%, and 4,500 people accessed the Wi-Fi, which is available 24/7 inside and outside the building. For adult programming highlights, we named our adult book club We'd Rather Be Reading Book Club, because that's what we would rather be doing. And that grew a lot, and virtually, surprisingly, we've had more people interested in the book club as it was virtual than we did in person. So we even got some people that are not local that saw it on the website. Also in January, we collected baby-specific items as a community baby shower for the food bank and gave those to them. In February, we collected non-perishable food and hygiene items and gave to the food bank. And the picture you see on the front page is of us being presented with the National Library Week proclamation from this board. Thank you. The next page, the picture is the Madison County Democratic Committee donating some books to us. Our youth programming highlights, last quarter were all still virtual and are still virtual, but we do have craft bags to go inside and teen bookworm bags, which include books and snacks, because if you want to get teens in the library, you have to have snacks. So we have those, and in the virtual programming highlighted some books that people might not just pick up off the shelves on their own. And in March, Carly, our children's specialist, did a Seuss-a-palooza for Dr. Seuss's birthday, virtually for us, but she also sent that video to the media specialist to use in all the elementary schools. The next page picture is in honor of the longtime ranch manager, Jenny Ruth Eccles, who died. She was manager for about 30 years, and we wanted to commemorate that. She was a big part of Madison County library history in the community. In other news, for staff training, Children's Specialist Carly Stewart attended the Association of Library Services to Children virtual conference, which was about 3 or 4 days. I attended session 3 and 4 of the Appalachian Leadership Institute virtually. I've since attended all 6 sessions. They have all been virtual, but I am graduating in person in 2 weeks in DC. So,
Congratulations.
that is all paid for by the Appalachian Regional Commission, not the library, not the county. So free continuing education. So the travel, everything's paid for through that. The back page is just a whole lot of information. So as far as gifts, we did have several monetary donations in honor of Jenny Ruth Eccles and a couple of other patrons that died and asked for donations to be made to the library in their obituaries. So we really appreciate that, that commemoration of them. The last paragraph is Patron Comments, which I'll leave y'all to read. I'm going to tell one library story from last quarter. We have a couple of regular patrons that we've had for a long time, and they started coming in back in October as soon as we opened for Grab and Go. This is Mr. and Mrs. Meadows, and they come in every 2 weeks, check out books, return books, get more books, put books on hold, always talk to us. In February, Mr. Meadows died, and he'd been in the library the week before, so it was very unexpected. The next week, like clockwork, his wife showed up on her library day, returned her books, checked out more books. And she came to check out, and she said, I wanted y'all to let y'all know that my husband had died. And we said, we knew, you know, a couple of us hugged her. And I just think it says a lot about how much the library was a part of their life, that she knew that we would want to know and cared. And also just like how much of a routine it had been for us to see them every 2 weeks. And then to suddenly not see somebody that's coming in. And it just, you know, emphasizes the fact that the library is such a community organization, like for the staff as well as the patrons. So so I encourage y'all to visit the library anytime. We're open 56 hours a week now, so we're back to normal. Pretty much the programming is still mostly virtual for youth. The Rather Be Reading Book Club is in person in July, with a Zoom option for the people who can't get all the way to Madison County, which they asked for. Inclusive Book Club is in person. This is a facilitated book club for adults of all abilities. That was in person this month, will be in person again next month. We're also a site for the summer feeding program through the school system, so we get the meals from the school Monday through Thursday. We have them to hand out to kids birth to 18, so if they can't get to the school, they can get to the library. There's not as many sites this year because of COVID, and that was a school system thing, but we're partnered with them to be a site. And, look, there's one more thing I was going to say. What did I say it was, Toby? Okay. Well, if y'all have any questions, the July calendar's attached. Oh, it's that we're a donation drop-off site for the March back to school, not a rally this year, but school supplies donations for the MART team. The library can be a drop-off site for that. So, does anybody have any questions for me about my report?
Ma'am, thank you very much. I
Thank you for
appreciate
having me. I
everything you do.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Chairman's report. I tried to keep this short and sweet, but there were some issues, or not issues, but some topics I needed to bring forward, and some of you may have read the paper from my previous discussion that me and Zach Mission had through the Madison County Journal. But the new Board of Election office is nearing completion. It looks great. Hopefully, we'll be able to start occupying that building in the next 3 weeks. T.C. Ledford, who's our maintenance superintendent here for the building, does all of our buildings actually, has done an amazing job, along with B&B Flooring, which is a Madison County business, who put our floor covering down and helped us with some of the remodel. This has been a collective effort between the Board of Elections office, the Sheriff's inmate work detail, and Thomas Smallwood, who oversaw all the IT infrastructure that's going in. Second topic, and we discussed this briefly in one of the other meetings, tentatively July 5th, Zoom Telecom company, which is also owned by a Madison County resident, will start installation of a fiber loop that just does the county buildings. This fiber loop will leave this building here. It'll catch 911. It'll leave 911 and go to the library, the rec department, and then the sheriff's office. All that'll be tied back into this county's fiber, which you should see boost some of the stuff over your way. This has been kicked around, Rhonda may know, 14, 15 years about getting this fiber ran, and I think maybe back in Chairman Dove's, when he was chairman here, some of the prices were around $140,000, $120,000, last price they got back in 2012, 2014. The current price on this one here is going to be about $36,000 for this individual to do it. And he's furnishing all the equipment to do it with. He's going to do all the installation and the hookups and turn it on live, along with Thomas Smallwood. Currently, the county pays about $1,200 a month for fiber to these areas, which will put our ROI on this $36,000 project at 2.5 years. And then after that, that's $1,200 a month savings to the county. So we're looking forward to that project getting started. So if anybody asks what all the little white flags are doing along the roads, that is the line that the fiber is going to go. That's where they've charted their course. Also, there was 27 Madison County employees took a defensive driving course on June 16th. This is mandatory for some of the departments. It not only provides our employees with safe driving tips, but it's a contribution factor in our insurance premiums. So I would like to thank all the employees that participated in that program. Last Monday, I attended, along with several other chairmen and county managers, including Oglethorpe, Warren, Wilkes, and Elbert County, and Mr. Rob Leverett, to the Capitol, to the Department of Ag, to discuss Senate Bill 260 and how it will impact our county. This is a growing topic, that the bill was passed and the governor had signed just recently. I want to say about mid-June, the governor signed it. So now they're trying to figure out how to implement it, and they've asked for our help. So collaborated effort between myself and the other counties is to come up with some guidelines, and we proposed several in which Department of Ag will do what they want with. Hopefully they'll implement some of the rules that we feel like is best needed for our county. Rob Leverett was a huge supporter in this and a huge contributor, bringing his state representative knowledge and what he's gotten done and accomplished at the state level, and being able to advocate for us in some of this to protect our county. Moving on, Christina Baxter, Rhonda Wooten, and myself are working on necessary steps to be recognized as a broadband-ready community. This will be discussed at our further July work session. This is a process that you can't just say, okay, we're ready. There's a lot of documents and forms and stuff that has to be filled out for grants and to be able to be the recipient of some of those grants. So I really want to thank Christina and Rhonda for all their hard work in putting this together. This is multiple pages of documents, and it changes about every 3 days. So thank you all for staying ahead of it. Unless I've missed something. That's it on my chairman's report, guys. Yep. I was going to do it in urgent matters.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that's better anyway, thank you.
Yes.
2 questions on that, Mr. Chair. With the fiber ring going down, we'll make sure that we get facilities to drop or appropriate gizmos, I'll call it, for the future 911, so we're not have to backtrack and splice appropriately, so just make sure that
That is correct.
in consideration. And then, what's the timeline on the Ag Department guidance review that you believe that crew that you just mentioned?
They are just starting.
Because I'm sure the rest of the board would like to see those before they go to Atlanta.
Yeah, so, well, the only thing that we presented was, from Madison County standpoint, I asked for permitting to be done through our counties, which currently their rules is permit through Department of Ag, and we don't know anything about it on that SB 260. So I've asked for that, and I've asked for a soil perk test to make sure that the soil that they're implementing the SB 260 on is capable of absorbing the volume of water that they presented. At this point, the Department of Ag has questioned some of the contributing factors, let's say Purdue Farm or Pilgrims, and seeing what some of the things they would like to see from them. They would not discuss what questions they ask and what kind of answers they receive back. They just ask us, guys, what would you like to see from us for your county? The reason I'd asked for the permitting process to go through our county was you can apply for the permit to dispense this soil amendment, but just because you apply for it and get it don't mean you have to do it right away. They can do it at any point in time, and without our county knowing about it, if somebody was to come in and ask for a rezone to build their house and we approve that, and then a few months later the guy to start putting the land application out, there's going to be a problem. And he's going to say, well, I had my permit first. But see, the county wasn't aware of it. We would be approving rezones potentially, or subdivisions potentially that may be directly adjacent. The SB 260 as it stands right now has a 100 feet setback. Not setback, yeah, 100-foot setback. Now, we all know that this thing has a couple mile smell radius, so it would be detrimental to get ahead of it and try to put plans in our favor. And for all these counties, we have a very little of this going on in our county currently. I only know of 2 farms that potentially use this, but Oglethorpe, Wilkes, and Elbert County has an abundance of it.
You might just, for the citizens here, you might just touch on what SB 260 is, because
Okay.
some people probably aren't aware.
All right. So SB 260 is a soil amendment that our poultry industry, and it could potentially be bigger than that. Terry may know who all is involved.
It's industrial waste. It's legalized land application of industrial waste. A lot of it comes from further processing in poultry, but products are pre-cooked, and it's It began many years ago, a product called DAF, dissolved air flotation, but it's a byproduct of the pre-cooking, so ready to eat products. A lot of it is coming from poultry. Again, it's approved at the state level, but it's industrial waste at the state level. It's legally land applied, and we have, for those of us in the ag community, have concerns about it because the public perception would be very easy to lump the use of animal manures in with this, and they're two entirely different things. The perception could easily bring the two together. So as we work through this, we want to make sure that there's a defined dividing line there. The challenge with this and looking into it, it goes back to a 1974 ordinance that defines soil amendment as no definition. Essentially, if you call it a soil amendment, then it drops into this category. And there's no definition. You don't have to have any proof of what it does or what advantages it gives to the soil. You can just call it a soil amendment. Now, there is some safety in that, and the Department of Ag regulates it at its source to make sure there are no harmful compounds, heavy metals especially, that would tend to build up in soils and become toxic. But the concern for us as a community is obviously it happens overnight. It smells bad, and it gives all of us that are in the production ag business, it gives us a bad name because we're looped into it. There's some very important uses for animal manures that we do not want to lose as a result of this. We talked to Representative Leverett. He's aware of that. He understands those needs there. But this, it is industrial waste that are considered or that are labeled as soil amendments, and then they're legally land applied. Last year when we visited with the Department of Ag, they put some rules in to hopefully help it. It all has to be injected instead of surface applied, so it has to be injected into the soil profile. But there are no, there has been to this point no mechanism for volumes that can be allowed per acre. Any sort of mechanism to prove what the needs are in the soil compared to what the nutrients or what the amendments that would be applied. So there's no mechanism there. So there's just a lot of open holes that would allow for potential nuisance type concerns.
And I couldn't have done a better job. Thank you, Terry. The pushback from the public is going to be exactly what he said, and I feel sorry for our local farmers that's not involved in this, because they will eventually catch the blame for it. You can envision what 12 chicken houses smells like, times that by about 400%.
But it's an entirely different smell.
Yeah, it is. It's a rotten smell, I would say. So, as it stands today, Madison County has only one option, and it is a zoning issue. Gary Black had stated that it may be best that we look at making another zoning ordinance for the land application of this to stand on its own. That was the only advice he had for this. Honestly, at this point, I don't know that the Department of Ag really knows how to handle this.
One of the suggestions, one of the talking points we've had is considering moving this under the umbrella EPD and out of the Department of Ag. That may be a way of approaching it. It might have a little more teeth into it. Department of Ag has no real regulatory, they have no enforcement authority, or very, very limited.
Correct. The Department of, our EPD was invited to that meeting and no one showed. So we were just a preliminary meeting for suggestions from our county is what we felt like was going to affect our residents. There's two people there. I think they budgeted for maybe another soil scientist to be hired, but as of right now, they only have about 2 or 3 people, period, in the state that can actually inspect these trucks. They don't know what's on the trucks. They know what they're being told is on the trucks, and that's good enough for them at this point. It's a good faith.
Yeah, that supposedly is being governed at the source of it. And there has been a couple of their haulers or handlers of it that have been problematic, and those those have been addressed individually. It's sort of a moving target.
I will say that, the Madison County Journal, Zach, I think you wrote that article several months ago. If you'd like to go back and look at it, I don't remember the name of it exactly, your headline on that, but it was a very informative article that'll give you a good bit of detail as to what it is. Now, I will say, from personal knowledge, the 2 farms in Madison County that can do it, one hasn't been doing any application in over a year from the Department of Ag comments. The second one is doing it correctly, and they are injecting it. But I don't think that that's going on through the southern counties around us. I don't know what else to add, just because nobody really knows yet which way they're going. They're questioning not just the county, but the owners of the companies to figure out what to do next.
Oglethorpe County actually was sued a couple of years, Oglethorpe banned it.
Yes.
A couple of years ago, when they actually got sued and lost the suit. Their private property rights that get involved here, and, you know, the landowners actually are getting paid for this, for the opportunity to dispose of it there. So, you know, there's a balancing act. I don't know what the answer is. It does need to be addressed.
And the soil amendment statement, that Terry made he was correct. I call it like Terry calls it industrial waste. The state calls it soil amendment. Now, they don't have to guarantee under the definition of soil amendment that anything will grow better.
Right.
All they know is it's gonna be an amendment to the soil, just like dumping water on dry red clay. Now you have a mud hole, so it was an amendment. You had a soil amendment. You changed it from one state to another. Not saying you'll grow any more on it, it's just an amendment to the soil.
That was one of the avenues that we tried to get them to address, was actually to change the definition of soil amendment so that it would have something in there that stated how it improved the soil. And that actually has to be done legislatively. It has to go through the full legislative process to make that happen.
It's concerning, I will say. It's concerning to us at what may come down. And I know it's, we're just on the front of it. So these other counties has been reaping the blunt for a while now.
Should I ask Terry one question? I think he answered something I've been wondering about a while. Did you say that this industrial waste is primarily coming from further processing? Right. It's not from the primary raw bird processing?
That's most of it's cooking.
Okay.
And, I'll just state also that this is something that has happened in Madison County, and we've had issues with it, and there has been inspections done, and
right.
They are doing what is the requirements of it, and I guess it's now coming to the forefront, as Todd's talking about.
But there's one more thing I'd like to add on this, and the Department of Ag stated they can't, when they, 100-foot setback, I felt was a little ludicrous, when our chicken house setback's currently triple that. The 100-foot setback was for water runoff. That's where the 100-foot setback come from. Now, they didn't think about it if it was up on a hill and it runs down 100 foot to a creek. They didn't think about that part. But, not judging them on that, but what was made clear to me from them was about the smell. I said, yeah, but it has a potential 3-mile smell radius and about a 2-mile fly radius. And they said, there's nothing in law.
Department of Ag does not regulate smell.
Does not regulate smell. So no matter how bad it is, we will not be able to force it from a county level. And this is the part really it's going to hit home for this board, because our phones is going to ring and we can't do anything about it at this point. This will be call the Department of Ag and they're going to say it's legal. We don't measure the smell. So it's a bad deal.
So I think for everybody to know, nobody's breaking any laws.
Yeah.
What's being done now is being done legally. Now, in my opinion, and the opinion of a lot of folks, there needs to be some law changes to make this different. Nobody's breaking any laws.
That's right.
Yeah.
Except the law of being a good neighbor.
Yeah.
Correct.
I have one other thing.
Sure.
To move on the other subject. I assume that on the fiber loop that future maintenance was included as far as what we're going to need to do in the future. I don't know that there will be a whole lot of maintenance, but I assume that was thought about as far as
Correct.
Going ahead with the loops.
Currently, our IT guy, Thomas Smallwood, can work on every bit of this system. He just don't have the mechanics to install it himself, or they would have done it years ago, which consists of the plows or the aerial crews or the permitting. And the reason I say July 5th being tentative is because we've got to wait for the state right away, this out here. All the rest of the roads we're not a big deal with until we hit back on Highway 98. Just keep in mind, it'll be a designated fiber for county government only.
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And I think 911 is the one that needs it the most. They're the ones that's saying that they're technically on a, not a power plant.
Sure.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you, Terry, again, for all of that knowledge on that.
We've been working on it for a while.
I'm sure you have. Statements, remarks for citizens on any of the agenda items tonight. Anybody have any questions about tonight's agenda? Hearing none, we'll go into business. Old business first. Consider Zachary Hightower rezone request for 3.53 acres from A1 to B on map 2, parcel 40. Lamar, are you here to present your finding?
Yes, sir. Good evening. Just to refresh everyone's memory on this rezone request, back May 18th, the Planning and Zoning Commission, we had our public hearing. And at that time, the information that was available to us, there was a lot of discussion amongst the Planning and Zoning Commission members, and the vote was 4-3 to recommend approval of the rezone request with a couple of conditions: that it remain an ag business if it changes hands, and it also be landscape according to our landscape procedures, our landscape ordinances. Came before the Board of Commissioners on June the 7th, and at that meeting there was quite a few questions that the commissioners had, and it was sent back to the Planning and Zoning Commission to gather additional information and, if necessary, come up with some specific conditions for the rezone request. On the 15th of June, the Planning and Zoning Board spent a little over an hour discussing this rezone request. Chris, the code enforcement officer, was there, and he was able to provide us with a lot of additional information. The difference between this meeting and the original Planning and Zoning public hearing, the initial Planning and Zoning hearing, we were told it was going to be one chemical. And by the time we held our second hearing, there was a whole list of chemicals that were involved. And at the end of that second Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, our vote was a vote of 7-0 to recommend denial of this rezone request, based on the information that we gathered from the first meeting to the second meeting and the information itself.
Thank you, Lamar.
You're welcome.
Mr. Hightower, are you here?
Yes, sir.
Please step up, Bob. Just state your name and address for the record.
Name's Zach Hightower, live 2824 Diamond Hill, Culver Road, Culver, Georgia.
Mr. Hightower, would you please give us a description of what exactly, why you actually need this rezone to go from A1 to B? Tell us what you're going to do with this business and any details that may help this board make a decision.
First of all, I'll start by apologizing. I think it's got blowed out of the water just a little too much. I'm here tonight to see about getting my property rezoned to ag building, so I can consolidate all my resources, all my business to one location. As far as my business, the zoning as it stands, I can conduct tomorrow as I did today. But if we could get the zoning passed, it'll help run it more efficiently. It'll benefit the county by increased property taxes, and I think it'll be good for everybody on board.
I have a question.
Yes,
So, when you came to me and asked me about this rezone several months back, you said you were told that you could not add another building to your property because you did not have enough acreage. I think that, or it's something about 3.5 acres.
Yes,
you needed to acquire possibly 2 more acres in order to have that second building.
Correct.
Well, what was it then?
Had nothing to do with the acreage.
It was zoned incorrectly.
That's correct. It's zoned agriculture, and the use and the building were grandfathered in, so it's non-conforming. So he could not add to it. The acreage had nothing to do with it.
Well, I remember a conversation of you, because we went back down to planning and zoning, and she said one of your options was to purchase 2 more acres.
I even contacted Mr. Warren after our conversation to purchase property from him and that was not an option there, so the second option was to get it rezoned.
Yeah, I remember there was an option to purchase 2 more acres,
Yes, sir.
and you said, well, I've already got how much money invested in it?
$140,000 right now out of pocket.
Now, personally, I don't know where, we went from adding a building to 3.5 acres that's non-conforming A1 to a potential business or a commercial use, because as you stated, you can operate in the morning. And we got off on a chemical chase. I
Yes.
don't know where we got into that because,
Me neither.
I will say that it is my fault. I was not at the last meeting, when this was discussed and sent back to the planning because of questions. I also was informed that maybe you didn't give this presentation to let people know what you actually do. Could you please tell us what you do?
What we do, we service poultry farms all over the state of Georgia, all the way south Georgia, Chatsworth, LJ, everywhere all over the state of Georgia. We put out the ammonia control with BOT for poultry houses. We do the rodenticide for the rodents around the houses for specific companies, and we do the beetle control, insecticide inside the houses. We offer a chlorine dioxide system, which is water treatment for the birds. So everything we have at the warehouse comes in contact with poultry. It's chemicals y'all can all go buy without a license. There are some chemicals that some companies will purchase for me to run for them. We carry a small amount, we run them for a certain amount of time, they're gone. We go through different chemicals on rotation, so it's not like we've got one chemical there. One may have there today, might not have there tomorrow, may have something different in place. But like I said, everything I've got there is stuff y'all can go purchase at Walmart, Home Depot, any feed seed store. It's just I can carry a little bit larger volume to apply to these farms.
I have another question.
Yes, sir.
And I'm just trying to clear up information that I've been told, and it's all been secondhand information. But I did watch the video of the meeting. How much on-site washing would this be? At this 3.53 acres, there was some question about having maybe a wash down area for your trucks. Is this something that's routinely happens?
My guys try to wash down at least once a week. There's nothing more than a little bit of chicken litter and dust on the trucks. We wash down and keep the disease and disinfect our trucks on a regular basis.
From going from one farm to the next?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We actually have spray rigs on the truck and on the trailer, so when we leave farms, we spray in between farms so there's no cross-contamination. But at the end of the week, I like for my guys to wash down their rigs, just keep trucks clean. It's an investment I got in business. I like my trucks to stay clean. As far as the product, the only trucks we really wash down are the PLT rigs. There will be some PLT on the back of the trucks that cakes up or whatnot from just regular applications, and we do wash that off the back because there's some pillar block bearing bolts and stuff like that back there, so we clean that off because the PLT is a little corrosive. Once it gets in contact with water, it activates. Like I said, the last meeting, the worst you're going to do is kill the grass and drop the pH right there in that where it's at, and that's about it. That's all you're going to get. But yes, we will be washing trucks down about once a week, just to keep it really clean.
You're not bringing in outside trucks from other sources to
No,
wash
sir.
them down?
No, this is my personal company trucks, yes, sir.
Linda, help me. The A1 zoning, you're A1
Yes,
at 3.53 acres. What's the minimum A1 zone currently?
5 acres.
So we're non-conforming to begin with. So we're starting off with an A1, which is not supposed to be an A1, and you're trying to go to business, which is non-conforming based on the land use plan, correct? Am I understanding this? Okay. So we're already wrong with our land use plan. I would like to ask you, it looks like we're trying to right something that's already wrong, because a 3.5 does not equal 5, which would be a true A1. You're already trying to fix something. I guess is where I'm going with this. And the second thing I'm going to go with this is the current neighbors around you now. Brett at Midway sells ag supplies. What has he thought about this business?
He and I've got a real good relationship. I bring a lot of business to him every month. I'm on a daily basis just about. So, I mean, I support his business, and he does the same for me.
What kind of opposition have you got about this rezone from neighbors?
The only thing I get from everybody is just the visual. That's been the only thing that's really, I can see, to understand from them is the visual aspect of it. But in my eyes, I don't know if they can't picture my dream here. This business I've put my blood, sweat, and tears into, and I've got a picture of a vision I would like for my business to be, the shop and the office, everything in one place. Nice landscape, flowers, trees. I mean, just really, really nice place. Concrete entrance. I mean, I'm putting in brand new buildings, a very nice building. We're tearing down the old one. We're not tearing down, we're reskinning the old one, adding on to it. It's going to be all brand new buildings. It's going to look really, really good when it gets done. So,
what time frame do you see, Zach, to bring this to fruition? I mean, as far as landscaping, I mean, somewhere down the line here, we got the cart. I mean, we don't even know where the horse is at, the cart's so far in front of it. When do you see this happen?
When I first bought this property, when I was in my due diligence period, I come to county, and Linda was not here. I was informed by somebody else that we looked at the zoning, looked at everything, and I was informed everything was good to proceed from what I had. That's when I went ahead and executed and bought the property. I went ahead, there was a metal increase coming, so I went ahead and purchased the buildings. I was told I could go ahead and do business, do what I needed to do, add the buildings, and so I did. So I proceeded on grading, getting the buildings purchased. We got ready to pull permits, start pouring concrete. I already had the perk test done, septic permit, already put a 2-inch water tap in, everything ready to go. My contractor called up here to pull a permit to pour concrete, and then we were denied. And then here we are today.
You have a tap off the county city water though?
Yes, sir.
You do?
Yes, sir. I had electrical work done. I pulled permits and all that in the past for this building because it was a fire building. And so I'm just trying to do everything by the book and make it right.
Is there a well on the property?
No, sir, there's not.
What exactly, you know, I think one of the things is putting the buildings there seems to be one of the major points. What are the buildings going to be used for? I mean,
the one building we're going to add is going to be a mechanic shop just for my personal equipment. It's not like we're going to have everybody and their brother coming in there getting their cars worked on. It's going to be for my equipment only. We're going to have an office there. Because right now, currently, I got 3 locations. I got my office, my warehouse, and my shop. So we're constantly, my guys and me, we're constantly running around between 2 counties trying to get this business done. So if we can put all the buildings there in one spot, we can all be there in unison, and it would help the business run a whole lot more efficient.
right. So what's the other building is?
That's going to be an office. It's going to be a 30 by 40 office. Yes, sir.
And so that'll just be office space. So at this garage thing, or you plans to have to store diesel fuel and gasoline?
I keep diesel fuel for my trucks, so my guys can fill up there. I can monitor their use. I don't have to worry about credit cards and all that gas card stuff. They can fill up there. We keep a 1,000-gallon tank there at the shop. Once we get this approved, there'll be barriers around everything. It's going to be all up to code, the way it needs to be. So it's not going to be an issue.
You said you pulled the permits. Have you already got a CO on all those? Or is this for the new building, the future building?
Well, I pulled a permit for the existing building on the electrical.
Okay. It was completed?
Yes, sir, it was.
Okay. So you're actually, today, running your business out of there?
Yes, sir.
And you're wanting to build a 30 by 40 for an office?
Yes, sir.
And that's it?
60 by 80 mechanic shop.
60 by 80 for a mechanic shop?
And then we're going to add on to the existing just a little bit.
Okay. Do you currently live at this property?
No, sir, I do not.
So wait, it's going to be, at the end of the day, there'll be 3 buildings?
Yes, sir. On the plat, I don't know if y'all drew out what was going to be where, and there was 3 buildings on there. I don't know if y'all received that or not.
Are you able to answer the concern about traffic coming in off that side roads that are coming on?
We receive 4 to 6 loads a week. So far as like 18-wheeler traffic, like I said, 4 to 6 loads will get in. It's not like we're running 30 or 40 track trailers in there every day. You sit there and watch the feed trucks and live hauls, are probably 40, 50 of them a day come through there. I will try to put a time frame for the big trucks. I know some of them come in at night, they run out of hours, they got to stay the night over. I can try to do away with that, but it's not like they was made up to be. There's constantly 18-wheelers running in and out and nonstop. It's not like that.
So it's not like chicken house hours.
No, sir. Oh, the business we run, my guys, they run pretty much 24/7, but it's not like we're there beating and banging around. My guys pull in with a truck, they'll load up the shop and they leave. They may not be back for 2 or 3 hours or the rest of the day. I got other places to reload at, so they may not be back till 5 or 6 o'clock that afternoon.
Any other questions?
And I guess I heard what you said about the chemical when you wash it off
Yep.
there. Change pH, kill the grass, whatever. I think some people had concerns about maybe some runoff or whatever. So where was the wash off, where's that going to be placed on that property?
Well, once we get finished and once hopefully this goes through, I would like to put a wash down pit for a catch for everything. But right now it's at the lower part of the parking lot. I got a little brown bin where I keep my fresh washer and stuff at, where hopefully nobody takes it. But it's just on the lower side of the property right there.
Right. Is there any creeks or anything?
No, sir. Not right there.
No wells.
No, sir.
But have you had a plat done, Zach, that shows any building location, how?
We have not had as-built, nothing done on. If I need to produce that, I can. It's gonna take me a little time. But I mean, pretty much with the drawing I gave you, where everything's gonna be located at.
You meet all your setbacks.
Yes, sir. All my setbacks, I pulled all my setbacks off the property line, off center line of both roads, and I'm inside the setbacks. It's 30 foot off property line and 70 foot off center line, I believe.
I'm going to show my ignorance here, but do we have a copy of that plat? Of that drawing?
I emailed it.
Is this what you're talking about?
Yes,
Did you?
Yes, sir.
Was it in the email? Maybe I hear you.
okay.
I probably have to print it out.
Okay. Long as y'all need this big one too?
No.
I was just curious. Yeah, I think I probably did look at this.
Ms. Hyde, besides the desires of what you want to do, I'm having a hard time, honestly. Don't object to what you do. I'm just having a hard time dropping a B zone right in the middle of the surrounding area. And I realize you're trying to get to a point where you can operate your desires or your wishes.
Yes, sir.
But I'm also concerned with the precedent it might set, or there's no, once a property's zoned a certain way, there's, hardly legal recourse that we can come back and change it again without significant pain and suffering. So I'm concerned that the desire that you have, even though it's an A1 and it's a non-conforming, to me it just, I'm having a hard time shoehorning the B zoning into this to, not unsympathetic, because I realize you've invested a lot of money in it, but
yes,
from a process standpoint and a procedural standpoint, I'm having some heartburn.
Commissioner Doster's right, we tend to overcomplicate this rezoning stuff, and the question is, in our mind, do we feel like that it is appropriate to rezone this parcel to B? And once you answer that question, then the regulations will define what can and cannot happen within the B zone. So, all of that gets answered by the ordinance. So the question for us is, do we feel like this is an appropriate location for a B zone? Because you may die tomorrow, but that B zone doesn't die.
Yes, sir.
So the next person can come in and put something, and in my mind, if this is handled properly, probably is not particularly intrusive or nuisance causing to the neighborhood, but the B zone stays. So the next thing could be So that's the question, so do we feel like that's appropriate? And it's close to, not too far from that, 98, so you got Midway's right there, and you got SPG's kind of there behind it.
And then you got businesses in the area. But I don't, are they zoned business?
Yes, sir.
All those are?
Yes, sir.
They are now.
No,
At
that's
one
what I'm
time
saying.
they wasn't.
No, I'm just, currently,
So here's some of the heartburn for me. And the heartburn for me is knowing that a business is operated out there for 30 years, currently, as a janitorial supply company.
Yeah, they hadn't been operating for a while, but the building's.
Yeah, I'm saying they literally operated for about 30 years, but now it's been vacant, but it's still been a business the whole time. And that sort of kind of drew me the question of, I think one of the neighbors may have commented they didn't want a business there, and they'd lived there for years across the street from an operating business the whole time, but it didn't become a problem until you decided to operate your business. So I don't know where the confusion from that neighbor was. So I'm having a hard time understanding that. I agree with Terry, to drop a business in there, it's a business from now on, but it's been a business the whole time.
Previously, yes, sir.
And you're gonna be a business tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
You're just gonna be a business with 2 less buildings
Correct.
and a non-conforming A1.
Yes, sir.
So it does have a lot more potential than just being a B in an ag zone. It has history. If you were just picking off 3.5 acres of a piece of cattle pasture and decide I want to put a business there, I see it having more weight versus one that's been operating now, or at least been on site for 30 years.
Yes, sir.
I did not pull the records on when that business went out of business, when you purchased the property. Do you know?
No, sir, I did not.
I don't either. I just know
It's been a while.
Yeah, I want to say it's been probably about 8 or 10 years, ain't it?
At least.
Yeah.
But the building's been there for a long time.
and just to make it clear, there is no alternative. Either you approve it, keep it A1, or you approve it for B to do it. There is no alternative for any kind of variance at this point, because we talked about maybe creating some kind of agribusiness area, but there's.
So,
And we're working on that.
Linda, help me. What would keep him staying what he is A1 now and just letting him build the buildings? What's the problem?
That's the question I was fixing to ask Mike. Does increasing the structures or the activity on a non-conforming zone, does that increase the non-conformity?
Well, that's what's typically called grandfather is the legal term for lawful non-conforming use.
Right.
And our zoning ordinance, like most, says that you cannot expand the lawful non-conforming use to additional either lands or building areas.
Because I don't really believe you would care whether it's zoned business or whether it's zoned ag. You just need to operate the business and add
I'll
on.
conduct my business.
Yeah, you didn't come in for a rezone. You come in to add a building.
Yes.
You found out you couldn't add a building
Correct.
to the current property. So again, I feel like it's hard to disqualify you from something in that manner.
But I guess back to my other question, there's no alternative than Mike to, it's either gotta be A1 or B. I mean, if we left it A1, we couldn't say he could build a building and have some kind of variance on that, but, because that would actually invalidate the wording of the.
Well, you don't have a variance for it in your ordinance right now.
Yeah.
So the options would be.
Conditional use?
Condition, yeah, so the two options would be, one would be to wait for an A1, with a text amendment that would give a conditional use for this sort of thing in A1. The other would be to zone it to B with a condition that it's only used for this sort of business. I think I emailed y'all some suggested language if you wanted to go that route.
The only concern I've got about that is if it is designated to a specific business. If I were to business belly up tomorrow and I gotta get into the lawn maintenance business or whatnot, would that still conform to that?
So the language, and this is just mirroring the language that we had, sort of in draft form still, but that we've been talking about for the conditional use in A1 is, that it would be business uses are restricted to businesses solely devoted to the provision of agribusiness services such as farm, machinery and equipment maintenance, land chemical application, transportation services for ag products, cleaning services for facilities used to store and grow ag products, and similar businesses. Sale of products is permitted only as incidental to provision of the agribusiness service. Business must be devoted solely to providing agribusiness service to persons or entities engaged in commercial production of ag products, which is defined as poultry, livestock, crops, and timber. And, you know, the idea being that it might be if you have a business that's not producing ag products itself, but it's a service business for commercial ag production, it might be appropriate in A1.
My concern is how many more A1s we got that's non-conforming.
Got a lot of, and it's not like created non-conforming. The road,
No, yeah.
The road defines it.
Sure.
Right.
The road cuts it off into 3.5
I
acres.
mean, you have farmers conducting businesses from their farms where they're doing grading and clearing and all that kind of stuff, which, you know, I can see that enters into this whole thing. So, you know, I'm trying to deal with this in my mind. I'm like Derek here. I'm not, and, you know, about the B, you know, whether it ought to be a B or not, making it B.
Yes, sir.
But I'm not totally out that you could have the buildings and conduct the business as you stated with the special, you know, use conditions. Yeah, but
Now, I see
I
that
don't
as
know
a
how
double-edged,
I don't know.
I see it as a double-edged sword though. Let's say we grant a conditional use and you get to add your buildings and you do go belly up and you sell out or forecloses. Now the next guy buys it, it's got 3 buildings on it that wouldn't have been there before because it's still been zoned A1. So there's really no way to do this unless you truly change the zoning on it. Because it's always going to be mixed up.
There's gonna be something going on every.
It's just it'll be, you know what I'm saying? Am I wrong?
Well, again, I mean, so if the ultimate, and I'm not, obviously, I don't have a policy position here, but if the ultimate goal is to have a conditional use in A1 for this type of business, then if you try to do this one, you're just doing an interim step. Ultimately, you would wind up with the option to put these kinds of businesses as conditional uses on A1 property. To get there on this one, if you don't want to wait for the text amendment, you rezone it to B with that condition, and as soon as the text amendment comes along, we would rezone it back to A1 with a conditional use that mirrors the condition you're putting on it for B right now. Would not affect his operation, there would be no vested rights arguments, but it would be getting it back to, this one's just coming a little ahead of having a text amendment for this kind of business in A1 if the commission wants to head in that direction.
How far away are you from the closest business? Midway Grocery would be your closest, right?
Sir?
Midway Grocery would be your closest
Yes, sir.
business? How far away is that?
Well, I mean, it's,
3,000 yards?
yes, all right.
So it's not completely out of the north.
Well, actually, SP is on the same road as I am. SPG, I believe what it is, and they're, actually, they may be honestly closer.
Oh, really?
Yes,
They are, I think.
I think, yeah, I think they
I
are.
rode through there, I think they probably are close.
The other heartburn I have is the fact that you came in and asked, and it wasn't no fault, Miss Linda, she wasn't here, but they were told you were okay to,
Yes, sir.
to purchase it and move forward. I wished you would've been said you're okay to purchase it and move forward, you just can't expand.
Well, if I'd have known from the get-go that I needed to do a rezoning or something, I would've started this before I would've done any work over there. If I just
That
had
was
right.
no fault of anybody's.
Right, I know a lot of people got upset because I was over doing work, and then all of a sudden there's rezone, and they thought, put the cart before the horse, but that's how I was told, and that's how I was led, so I do apologize for that.
So Mike, would be the proper procedure if we followed the route that you just described to us, what would be the proper?
So the procedure would be to rezone it to B with that condition I just read. So that would mean, you know, it can't be used for other kinds of businesses.
A car lot.
A car lot, a drugstore, whatever.
You can't have a mechanic shop to work on everybody's
Yes,
diesel trucks. Of course, that was some of the concerns of the citizens, so.
But if he wants to sell the property and move his business somewhere else, somebody who does an ag service business would have to be identical to his, but something that services the ag community could go there. So you do that, you do it to B with the condition I just read, and then when there's a text amendment to A1, just for the sake of consistency, I would suggest zoning it back to A1 with that conditional use.
Now, can we, at that point, administratively do that, or would we need the applicant to come back and apply if we waive fees at that point? Or?
Now, you could do that as a board-initiated rezone. So Mr. Hightower wouldn't have to come back. It would have to go through the public hearing process, but it would be just putting a different label on the same
So as
thing.
long as it met his approval,
Yeah, well, and it
wouldn't necessarily have to do that.
wouldn't necessarily even have to meet his, I mean, the thing is, your change would not impact what he's doing on the property, so there's no problem with vested rights. He would continue on as if that part never happened.
But that still limits me to my business, correct? So like I said, if I were to belly up and have to start another business, I'm solely just gotta be an agricultural business.
Correct.
See, I've got a grading operation right across the road from me, one right up the road from me on their side, and there's no zoning there.
And either one of those would consider, that would fit. That would fit in a ag business or whatever. So,
The grading would?
yeah. I mean, in my mind it would.
Well, if it's solely to, I mean, if the grader there is only providing that service to people and businesses engaged in commercial production of agricultural products, yes. But if it's grading business for house lots and commercial lots, then no.
I feel like if we tried to put a limitation on this, we would get ourselves in a future mess.
Zach, is both your buildings gonna be pre-engineered buildings, metal buildings?
Yes, sir. They're gonna be, red iron, I mean, they're gonna be really nice
Are
buildings.
both of them on the site now, or just one?
I've got all the metal sitting there on site now.
For both buildings and for the addition
Yes,
to your other building?
Yes, sir, they're sitting on site right now. They're the nice big Butler buildings, there's nothing cheap.
And you've already, as you stated, I think you said you have applied for the permits, but you were denied because of the zoning
Yes, sir.
issue.
Yes, sir.
Which is understandable.
Yeah, but you have applied and you had everything
Yes, sir.
going that way.
I was taking all the right procedures, so I thought.
Zach, would it be safe to say, and here again, I don't wanna throw anyone in the courthouse under the bus here, but would it be safe to say, from the best of your understanding, when you purchased the property, then applied for the building permit, you thought that you were, in good faith, you thought that you were in compliance
Yes, sir.
with what you could do?
Yes, sir. Like I said, I done the soil studies, got a perk test done, got the septic permits, done the water tap, and we were waiting on the buildings to come in, because like I said, I was informed that as far as the zoning was, I could conduct business, and I informed them of the buildings I would be adding to, and so I proceeded to work, and then when we got ready for permits to pour concrete, we were denied.
Do you have any intent to pave any of this that's already been?
As of right now, I plan on concrete the entrances a pretty good ways, just to keep whatever gravel and stuff from going out the road, but, and make it look nice, but as far as the main part of it, no, so I'm not planning on it.
Are you gonna fence? I believe I heard you say you were gonna landscape
I
something.
would plan on landscape. I don't want to have to fence, but I want to. I'd like to keep it all open, a nice building, but there's some people in that area we need to fence it off for. But yes, I've already purchased all the fence to do that. It's gonna be 8-foot chain link, 1-stranded barbed wire at top, but everything will be landscaped and maintained on a regular basis.
Would you be willing, should the board decide to approve this, would you be willing to make the landscaping, agree that the landscaping is part of this package prior to receiving a CO for your other buildings? You understand what I'm
I had
saying?
the landscaping done to get the
It's
CO
part-
for the rest of the building?
Yes.
I think that's understandable.
That way the package is complete and it's not.
I was actually going to probably do the landscaping first, 'cause I would like to put my sign out there and put flowers around it and all that stuff, so people would know the business there. 'Cause I got a lot of people still don't know my new location, and if I had a sign up, it would help with a lot of that, 'cause we have had a truck stop on the road, not knowing where it was at, 'cause there's no signage there. So I was actually planning on hopefully next week or so, putting a sign up and landscaping around it and start doing landscaping first, honestly.
Just remember, all of these intentions and contingencies aren't binding unless they're made a condition of the rezone.
Yes, yes.
Like I think we've talked about this before, to refresh my mind that, we cannot tie the rezone to the applicant, it has to tie to the property, correct?
That's correct.
Got a conditional use.
Yeah, conditional use, again, is tied to the property, and that was the idea of what Lynn and I have been talking about, is trying to come up with this, this language that I just read that would, if you think that's suitable for that property, it doesn't matter who's there doing it.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? So before I make a motion, let's try to distinguish which motion. Would you, Mike, would you rather me have a motion to approve the rezone to, or deny the rezone to business? And then if it fails, would you want me to, or could at that point, I don't want to get in that, I draw it back kind of deal, you know how we voted before and had to draw it back and rephrase it?
Right.
Well, trying to get a consensus of how to make a rezone, how to make a motion.
So your options are to deny the rezone, to grant the rezone to B with no conditions, or to grant the rezone to B with conditions.
Okay, I can do that. So I'll ask for a motion to approve or deny the current rezone.
Let me back up.
Okay.
Mark, can you give me some insight on what was the, P&Z board thinking when you moved to recommend denial?
Yes, sir, the, planning and zoning, members, like I said originally, we spent a good bit of time talking at the second, hearing of this rezone request. The biggest concern with the members, I think we spent most of the time talking about, was just the chemicals we were initially told there was one chemical. And then by the time we got to our second hearing, we had additional information of a whole list of chemicals. And there was talk about the washout and stuff, and about getting access to the water and in the ground and everything. And planning and zoning, we just felt like, that it wasn't fit for that area. Now, there are several other members of the Planning and Zoning Commission here. They may remember some things that I don't remember.
Lee, you want to add anything?
I guess the one thing that stood out to me was the list of chemicals. Christopher sat here and we went through each individual chemical in the book. And it sounded to us like there was potential for some of these chemicals to be bad to the environment, especially if you had a fire or anything with houses as close as they are, given that it's an ag community. So it was the chemicals, and the type of chemical, not just the number of chemicals that we were concerned about.
If I may, Midway across the road carries a lot more chemical than I carry, a lot more volume than I do. Pretty much same stuff too.
Well, I spoke with Christopher on this chemical topic. I think Linda was down there, and I was explaining to Linda, it's hard to base a rezone on chemicals, because I can say I'm going to use one today, and then I open up and have 10. You can't do anything about it. Or you could have said you're going to have 10, next thing you're going to have 100. And one of the explanations I used for Linda was being harmful chemical is Freon. You can walk in and buy a can of Freon for your car and you don't have to have a license, but if you buy a 30-pound drum, you have to have a license and be through a class and understand it, because it's a harmful chemical. So it's all in the matter of quantity and how that quantity is used. Purple power, DEF fluid for your truck. I don't know how many people drive a DEF, you might have one. That stuff's corrosive, it's harmful, it kills the grass, it kills everything, and we spill it on the ground every day for every single diesel truck on the planet. Let it dry and you have a big ball of crystal salt. But either way.
Well, I'm licensed
So
and I'm monitored
that's why I
by the
was
state.
worried about y'all's discussion on chemicals, is because it could change tomorrow.
Yes, sir, it could.
But thank you both, yes.
Just one other thing that I just thought of that came up at the Planning and Zoning Commission. When we originally heard the rezone request, I mentioned there was just one chemical that was mentioned. And it came before you guys, and you sent it back, wanted us to gather additional information, and the list grew longer and longer. And some of that just led us to think that, okay, we didn't start getting all this additional information until we started asking a whole lot of questions.
Right.
And at that point, it's like, okay, what questions aren't we asking that we don't know the answers to? Or we, it's one of those, what you don't know, you don't know. And we just felt like, there's just too many question marks up there that just kind of set wrong.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. And I do appreciate the due diligence of all the groups. I think that, as we said, there's been a lot of not understanding the whole situation.
And, yes.
Any more discussion before I ask for a motion? All right, I'll ask for a motion to approve or deny.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I'll ask for a motion to approve or deny the current rezone. You want me to do this separately?
Well, I mean, I think all three options are on the floor for whatever
Okay.
commissioner wants to make it,
All right.
with conditions, without conditions, or just deny.
I'll ask for a motion to approve or deny the current rezone as it stands. Approve, deny with conditions. That's the only two, right?
Well, it's three, approved. So the application is to rezone to B.
Yep.
No conditions. So you can just approve that
That's as it stands.
as it stands. You can approve it to be with conditions, and then the commissioner would have to state the conditions. Or you can make a motion to deny the rezone, period.
Okay. Start over. Motion to approve or deny the rezone as it stands. Motion to approve or deny the rezone with conditions. Motion to deny rezone altogether.
I've stated my reservation, so I'll make a motion to deny the rezone. If somebody wants to carry it with a second or not, that's fine.
Like if we were to grant it with conditions, do the conditions have to be established tonight?
Yes, sir.
I hate to put the burden back on zoning and planning, but if we deny this tonight, would Mr. Hightower, would Zach have the opportunity to come back with a plan that shows us, this is what's fenced, this is what's landscaped? How long does the denial last? 6 months.
Yeah.
In the meantime, he could carry on his business as it is right now because it's grandfathered in.
except for the buildings
Except
that's
for
ordered
the
on the
new
ground.
building.
Or the
Building
material
and
on the ground.
improvements. Does, and I ask this because on my place, I've had more than one building that's zoned A1. Is there anything in this as a A1 property that would prevent him from going ahead with his building?
He can put his building there, it's the use that's the property. It could be an empty building. You know, I mean, obviously he's taking,
He wouldn't get permits for the electrical or the footings or anything else.
Mm-hmm.
They would deny him his permits.
Well, let me bring Linda Lamar back into this, but I mean, you can put up, if he's just putting up an open metal building, that could certainly be used for hay storage or any number of things that are appropriate in A1 zone. It would be when there's a report and code enforcement goes out and sees he's using it for something that's not permitted in A1, that would be the problem.
So that was my question about the buildings. Is
Yeah.
you put the buildings up and that doesn't increase the non-conformance, it's the use of the building.
It's the use. The use is the problem here. The use is what is non-conforming.
Yeah.
I hate to throw this little tidbit in here and come in, but I'm conflicted a lot about this because I can probably take you to some places now where some people have some farms and they may have some substantially similar type things going on. So what we're doing, I don't know exactly what the right thing to do is at this point, but what we're doing is impactful for the future for sure, as we've already stated. And we're gonna need to have some planning and zoning
I would say,
discussions about how we move forward to get us out of these.
I would say Terry would be correct, because that's gonna put every A1 farm that draws revenue into a business state.
Well, I'm
just saying.
Depending on.
It's ag.
Depending on
but
what
there's
else.
a business that draws an income.
Depending on what else they do on that.
Yeah.
Well, let me again try to get across what Linda and I have been working on. So right now, in your A1 zone, you can do all sorts of agricultural production, and you can also sell agricultural products of the land, but you can't have a tractor supply company there just because you say, well, I sell stuff to farmers along with everybody else in the world. What we're trying to do is carve out for this possible new A1 conditional use, a business use. It wouldn't be tractor supply company, but it would be something like Mr. Hightower, who only serves commercial agricultural producers. Now, that may or may not be the direction the commission wants to go, but that's what Linda and I thought was the direction last time it came up.
So like people who clean out chicken houses and move it all over.
Exactly.
Everywhere.
That's right.
Who probably currently do that now.
Well, again, they shouldn't be. But if they are, maybe that's why we need that condition.
Well, and that's what I'm trying to talk about. And we've got others that do other services, agricultural based, that they've been doing them too, and they probably built buildings to do some of those type things in, but we have.
Like a spreader service?
Well, point of order, there's a motion, and if the board so desires it die on the second, can we go ahead and acquiesce to that? That's fine, and I'm not going to.
No, I got you.
Feelings hurt, but we get a little.
We went to discussion.
We went to discussion, and we've also, I think, discussing some things that I think people are realizing that we've got a lot of work to do, but for tonight, is that.
All right, so if I don't hear a second, I will say the motion denies, or do we have a second?
For the point of discussion, I will second the motion so we can legitimately discuss it.
Now we're in discussion. Thank you, Dave.
But there are a lot of, and the question you get into, like the spreader services, most of them, all they're doing, they're parking their equipment at their farm, and they're conducting their business essentially out of their truck.
Right,
So,
but,
and that's the same thing if somebody's got construction equipment, he's not really doing any construction there, he's parking his equipment there, and he's doing his work somewhere else.
I was under the impression that's what this was doing.
and
He
then,
didn't work out of the shop, he done his work somewhere else and parked his trucks here.
and then, you know, then they doing the maintenance on some of the trucks and all those kind of stuff, and farm shops, and who's doing what, where, it raises a lot of questions, and, I don't know whether, I'm thinking out loud, and I'm just being honest, this is how I do it. Sometimes I'm not wondering if it's not better to have it as a business, and then you clearly can put stipulations on what it can and can't do, rather than if it's A1 and you buildings, then it sort of opens it up for a whole Pandora of stuff. I mean, really, considering that when you look in that area, you got businesses all along right there in that stretch. I mean, they're Midway's a business, at SPG's a business, you got a grading business, right?
So I have any more discussion? If not, I have a first and a second on the table. To deny.
And just a reminder, if this motion fails, then we'll need a new motion either to grant outright or with conditions.
But if we deny, he's gotta wait 6 months, even though.
Yeah, the one possible way around that might be that if you do a text amendment, for, you know, for this sort of service ag business, you could do a board-initiated rezone. You're not restricted to the 6 months, only Mr. Hightower. You could initiate that for him.
My question is, what's gonna change 6 months from now, other than
It's just a
landscape?
question of not going into the zone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the challenge here for me, is that B zone.
Yes, I
That's
agree.
That's really the question.
I don't really have I don't want to do that,
Yeah.
but I'm just wondering, what's the other committee? Cause, you know, it's not in my, but I'm thinking about future agricultural people too, is what I'm trying to think about too here. And I don't wanna do something here that then all of a sudden sends a signal that we're gonna limit folks. But then again, too, I don't want people to believe that they can just put a business in an inappropriate type area.
Our catch-22 is within sight of Mr. Hightower's property here. We've got other businesses that are operating out of homes. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, they got signs up, those are businesses.
Well, but I mean, I don't know, but those could be home occupations. There's a list of certain kinds of business you can do as home occupations regardless of your zone.
Grading business is not one of them.
That would not be one of them.
I mean, and
CPAs.
for what from what I've heard,
Actually, that might be. I think it is, yeah.
in good faith, Mr. Hightower hadn't done anything wrong up until this point. You know, I mean, I from what I'm hearing, I'm led to believe that he was led to believe that he could proceed with what he's doing. I'm at a loss of how to proceed.
Well, according to
Next thing
Mr.
to do is
Pruitt,
vote on the motion on the floor.
Okay.
motion on the floor is to approve or deny the current rezone as it stands from A1 to B. I currently have 2 first and second to deny.
The motion is to deny, right?
Yeah, just to deny the reason.
If nobody votes, it dies.
Well, everybody has to vote.
We gotta vote.
Everybody
We gotta vote on
votes
it.
or die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a yes vote would be to deny, and a no vote would be to
Do something
The
else.
motion fails.
do something.
The motion fails and another motion can be
Yeah.
inserted at that time.
All right. Well, gentlemen,
Question? Let's go ahead and vote.
that's what I'm saying.
Just vote.
Call the roll.
Terry?
You sure I'm supposed to go first?
Danny went last time. I can go back up. I'm down to third. Yes. I'm sorry?
Yes. Yes
Yes.
on the motion.
Yes on the motion to deny.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
4 yeses.
Mm-hmm.
Motion carries. That means he has 6 months unless
Yep.
we initiate it again.
Exactly.
Correct.
But that's up to us to initiate.
That'd be up to you.
Do we need to make a motion and discuss that now, Mike, or can that be done at a?
Well, I mean, it's just denied, we can do that yeah, I mean, that's, unless and until you have a text amendment, I'm not sure you have anything to really talk about anyway,
We
so.
we don't have anything. But at this time, just so I understand, Mr. Hightower can carry on the business like he's operating right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's
We
got
just
the grandfathered use there that he can continue.
This board just stopped him from putting up a building,
No.
but that's all.
We stopped him from using the building.
Using the
That's
building,
right.
that's right. Well, you would have had to pull permits for the building if it's enclosed. He couldn't pull permits. That's why he's here, because he went to pull permits and couldn't get them because he had to have a motion. So it's not to use a building.
Well, he
the
went
building
to
can't
pull
be built.
permits for a particular use.
Yeah.
Which
So
he can get a permit,
Which is
but
classification.
then he's throwing money away that's no good to him because he can't use it for what he wants to use it for. So he's not.
Still be agricultural use with it, though.
But it could be, absolutely, you can store
You
hay
could-
there or whatever's allowed in
There's
A1.
cows in there.
So I guess then, Mike, that wouldn't preclude him from building the buildings if he was to risk that at a future date, he was gonna,
That is correct.
That
that
is
he could
correct.
get to the use he wanted.
That is
So,
correct.
so over the 6 months or less time, should the board decide to compress that time for discussion, he could proceed and be issued building permits for these buildings.
Sure.
Linda, is that correct?
Well, according to the ordinance, to have a building on an agriculture piece of property and you don't have a home on that property, it has to be 10 acres or more.
Oh.
5 acres or
Oh,
more.
there's where the acreage came in. Okay, that's a detail I did not know.
Wouldn't this be, wouldn't this be important information to know first? Because now you just, I just see a big red flag in the newspaper saying, then no wonder there's no business, guys. I'm just seeing that red flag from people says we're trying to get business. But that would have been great information to have just a little while ago. Not saying you had to forthcome with it, there should have been our knowledge of it, knowing it, but.
Anyway, I wouldn't think that, I don't know, might do what they want to, but I thought he had a particular use in mind, and I don't know why he would invest money in a building if he couldn't get that use, but whatever.
I'm lost. What do you mean? I'm just lost. What are you talking about? A particular use for which building?
For the building he wants to put there, it's for his business.
Yeah, you said he would've had, you thought he would've had a particular use in mind? I thought he did. I thought that's what he stated.
He did.
That add-on
Right.
his office. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So why would he wanna, now that it's been denied, why would he wanna put the building up?
Yeah. Gotcha. So, Mr. Hightower, your motion's been denied.
So can we reapply for this later down the road, or?
Yes.
6 months.
6 months.
Yes, sir.
Unless board initiated, right?
Unless board initiated.
And what would he have to do that?
Well, he wouldn't do anything, you would do it.
So it would be us.
Okay.
The board would vote to do it, to have, the board would vote to direct planning and zoning to initiate it, and it would go through the same public hearing process as if a citizen applied.
Does he have to post all the signs again, and do we pay again?
No.
You don't pay again, you just post the signs?
He wouldn't pay again.
No,
He
We
we
would
would
be
be
the
board
applicant.
initiated.
We would be the applicant,
Yeah.
so we'd be responsible for any of that.
Exactly.
In other words, we'd be initiating it, and based on what we saw as the use and the stipulations, correct?
This would be within text amendment, correct?
Yeah, right, again, I would not think, I've never seen a board initiated rezone unless it's because there's been a text amendment and there's some new category now that you want to put it into.
That's right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So because it was unanimous and because there was no text amendment, he does have to wait 6 months.
He has to wait, I mean, from his perspective, he has to wait. You can go forward with a text amendment and then a board initiated rezone if that's what you want to do.
I wouldn't introduce that knowing I was 4-0. I mean, it would be foolish of myself to do so.
Well, I mean, the board, when I say you,
Yeah.
not chairman.
I think, yeah, that's something we need to discuss, I think, and, that we need to look at about what this text, I mean, this is related to the agribusiness type designation and all those kind of things, which is just beginning, and
Exactly, and so what I'm hearing is, if I can interject, I'm sorry,
Sure.
I'm talking too much, but
No, you're fine.
it sounds like some board members have raised some additional, things to look at in the context of this possible text amendment, and that's what the Planning and Zoning Commission does, so.
Zach, do you have hours that you're there?
Sir?
Do you have hours that you're at your business?
No, sir, we work for the poultry industry, we work the hours they work.
If we could set up a time that, should board members decide to visit your business, could we get your
Contact me.
contact information and let's
Sir, we got it.
see, you got it? Okay.
You got my cell phone
Yeah,
there?
we got it, we got it. We'll be in touch.
443912088.
Yes, sir, that's it.
All right, moving on. Consider approving T-Splosh intergovernmental agreements. Everybody has a copy of this in front of them, and what this is the cities has already, signed off on the paperwork to move forward with the T-Splosh. The question for us tonight is whether we move forward with the T-Splosh with bonds or without bonds. I think that's gonna be the motion, correct? Yeah. All right, so, gentlemen, this is, in understanding the paving, I don't feel that we will actually need bonds on this particular T-Splosh. It's not an importance to try to get all the money up front because paving is seasonal. Paving does not run year-round, and we'll have more than adequate time to gather any sales tax.
Which what we're talking about is how this would show up on the ballot.
That's exactly correct.
Right, to have the option to issue the bonds, you have to put that on the ballot, so.
And my concern is it may confuse people, and on the T-Splosh, because of the way it's been presented in the past, that the last thing I want is verbiage that may confuse the voter.
Hadn't the cities already leaned towards not having bond?
Every one of them.
I don't know, I haven't talked to them.
If this was a year-round process and we had an abundance of pavers that could work to get this done, the bond would come in, handy. Considering we only have about 3, maybe 4 paving companies that'll even bid on it. Amongst the other work they have on, I don't think it's gonna be a time restraint, issue. If the board feels to put this on the ballot, I understand. I just wanna make you aware of the paving side of it.
So, that being said, I make a motion, and I believe it's time for that now. I make a motion that we proceed with the transportation, the T-Splosh Move up.
Without the bonds. I have a
And
motion.
that way we're in compliance with what our municipalities have already agreed to.
Second motion.
I have a motion by Mr. Adams, a second by Mr. Chandler. Any discussion?
And that's for both just clarify, that's the resolution and the intergovernmental agreement. And so then this will go to the cities for their July meetings, for them all to approve it officially as well.
And then this will be the verbiage that will show up on the ballot.
Yes, yes, sir, that's correct.
I have a first and second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Kirk?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Passes unanimously.
We're going to go first on the easy ones.
Yeah. Consider reappointing Reginald Hunter to the Advantage Behavioral, System Board.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Derek, second by Mr. Chandler. Derek, any discussion?
I just appreciate him wanting to serve, and we got acknowledgement that he's willing to do so.
I agree. Thank you so much. Now, Derek.
Yes.
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 Motion carries. Consider approving 21-22 Public Defenders Indigent Defense Agreement. So, Mike, you could probably help me out with this. I'm assuming we pay a larger portion because we have more cases?
That's exactly right. It's on a rolling 5-year average of the caseload in every county. And so our caseload actually went down a little bit relative to the other counties, but there's a little bit of a budget increase. So that's what comes to the number you got there.
Right.
So I'll ask for a motion to approve or deny the 2021 Public Defender Indigent Defense Agreement.
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Have a motion by Mr. Kirk, second by Mr. Adams. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Adams?
Yes.
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 It's unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Consider conveying the Presbyterian Church and Cemetery Parcel D003-011 to the City of Danielsville.
We sort of left this last meeting needing an explanation of where we're going. So what's the plan?
Okay. So let me, because I got a little bit of a backstory on this I can help you with. And you know, some of y'all may have
It got
heard.
conveyed from the city to the county once already, right? Does the city-
No, it come from
No.
the Presbyterian Church in 1983 to the
So
county.
the cemetery was attached to the Presbyterian Church?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Our records indicate 1983, the church deemed it unusable, don't foresee it ever being anything else, so they just give it to the county because we were the landholder. Just for some input on this, some of you may or may not know, the city holds the trust for this that was set up by, what's the lady down here? She's passed away now. There's a $60,000 trust to maintain that cemetery, interest only. $60,000 can never be dispersed. It cannot be touched. All you can use is the interest off of it. So technically, the county owns the land. The city has the money to maintain it. With that being said, the city, for years, for the past 8 or 10 years, there was no money being raised much off $60,000 interest. They didn't have enough money to cut it, so the money just sat in an account. The county or the city reinvested the money to where now it draws a little bit better interest, and now they do have money to maintain it. Jan Loftus, I think, was the last living member, and it was her mother-in-law, maybe. All right, so Jan Loftus come to the city of Danielsville about 5 years ago and asked for that fund to be dispersed, to use it for upgrades for that cemetery. I think maybe Al Stone was involved in some of the original writing on it, Victor Johnson, and the other attorney up here, what's his name? No, the other one owns all the property.
Pat Graham or Lane Fitzpatrick?
Fitzpatrick. And I think they all deemed the way that thing was written that it was almost impossible to try to disperse the money. It had to be left intact. mainly because of the people that put it together and had all the signed documents were dead. And it was really, without taking it to Superior Court and have it overrode to disperse the money, but either way, the money would still go to the city of Danielsville. So from a previous commission and a previous commission before that, I think Anthony Dove chose to maintain it. And then I think that Mr. Scarborough had it maintained for a small period of time, and then it sort of went to inmates, and there were some issues about buying the equipment. Now, from an auditing standpoint, the city has to account for the money, and they do, but it's tough for the city to cut a check to the county to pay the county for maintaining the property that don't belong to the city, if that makes any sense to you, anybody. So to basically take a bad scenario of a lot of hands in the pot and just give it to the correct owner of the money, the idea is to hand this over. Currently, in the past month or so, I think the city has been paying for the upkeep of the grass. Somebody's been cutting it. I'm assuming it's Danielsville because it's not our guys. Yeah, so we're just trying. My thought is to convey the property to its rightful owner, which would have been the Presbyterian Church, but over to the city who has the trust.
What about the church building itself?
Yeah,
It's all one parcel. We could divide that out, but you would be saving a spot about 75 feet long, about 75 foot wide, and if something ever was to happen to the church, if it fell in tomorrow, then the county would own a 75 foot piece of dirt that you could never build on. You couldn't do anything with it, couldn't sell it.
For what it's worth, our insurance agent mentioned to me when he saw this on the agenda that that building itself is just a liability right now at the county. Whoever owns it needs to either probably demolish it or refurbish it or move it or something at some point soon.
Yeah. Well, I think that was some of our concern, was what was gonna happen to the structure.
Right.
Well, and it's not on the National Register because it's the third oldest Presbyterian church in the state of Georgia, but it has not been recognized as a National Historic Site like the courthouse. So therefore, if it falls in, there's nobody right now that.
No grant money like that.
There ain't no grant money, it's
So
I can keep it right now. I mean, now, there might be some people in Danielsville that might try to move forward on that, but, you know, that's not the county's. I mean, currently, we'd have to do that, but if it was in the city of Danielsville, they'd probably be in as good or better shape to do that, considering they got a trust fund over there. It's what I've seen and heard, and after talking with some of the folks in the city, which I got into that discussion while I was talking about the fire department, so that's.
And it boils down to the trust. The trust is in the city's name, the property's in the county's name.
And this Danielsville has expressed a willingness to take this.
Yeah, they're reluctant, but they know that
They know it's the right thing. But honestly, they don't want the building because they know they're going to inherit the same problem we've got.
That's right.
But they understand that why we want to do it.
But I think they are trying to pursue getting some people that are concerned about it, to maybe look into some of the, getting it designated so they can get some help with it or whatever.
And something that brought to my attention, we started researching this the other day, was I came by and I seen some people out putting flowers out the graves. And like most church cemeteries, there normally is a map of who owns what land. Right now, if somebody decides they want to be buried out there, it's county's land, there's no documentation to stop them, other than the county owns it. That's a headache that we're going to get into eventually. Because who's to say, hey, my grandmother bought that and I've got documents showing back here from 50 years ago. We won't have any records of it. We have nothing in this building on it. I've left messages at the Presbyterian Church hoping they may have some kind of records on it, but as of right now, there's plenty of sites out there that could potentially get a body on them, and I don't know that we can stop it.
There may be a body in it already.
Maybe, and that's the thing is,
That's the problem.
where the city has the City of Danielsville Memorial Gardens has a map that shows every single person what's available to buy or what's available that's already been, or I'm sorry, what's unoccupied space at this point in time. So they could do their own mapping, come up with a map system if it's theirs, and they can maintain if anything gets sold off of it for a lot. I think the last person I know of that was buried there would have been maybe Miss Sherry Culberson, because she was the last person I know over that cemetery. And she helped tremendously with Jan Loftus. We just couldn't get anywhere from the attorneys to say that you have the power to relinquish the money, even from a granddaughter's standpoint.
Well, from a money standpoint, I understand that they got it and they have a fiduciary responsibility, but I also think there's, more complicated intergovernmental agreements that's been put together over, the course of time if they wanted to, make that acquisition or acquiesce to that. I understand the building needs a lot. I just, like we discussed last time, I just think, or at least people I've talked to would like to know some sort of plan, whether it's comes to fruition or not, and maybe not a binding agreement, but maybe if there's a memorandum of understanding between us and the city, just saying, hey, we want to try to do this, we want to try to get registered. If they're trying to make that attempt to move that forward, again, that may be a little more than some people may want, but at least in my mind, I can get my head around some written document that at least we can articulate to others, this is the goal. Right. And if, 5 years now or tomorrow it burns down, or, at least we had some sort of attempt and plan that it would move forward, and that would make me feel better.
Yeah. And I agree 100% on that. What I'm concerned about is the financial liability of it. God forbid, we hope this never happens, but if vandals go out there and tear it up tonight, we just bought a bunch of headstones. Because somebody has, we're the one that's on the deed right now to fixing those headstones or whatever else happened. We're the ones on the deed right now to cut that grass. We're the ones on the financial responsibility to furnish all that.
But if they have a trust with a fiduciary responsibility to provide for the carrying property, there is some culpability that they have to, I say have to is a strong word. Yeah, they have a responsibility to do that, and I don't think if that's the way, if it's an unbreakable will and trust that says you provide money for support of that, to me that would be a little heavy-handed for somebody to say we're not spending money.
But the actual trust states the money, anything above and beyond $60,000 is to be used solely for the upkeep and maintenance of the cemetery.
It's a cemetery, not building. It's specific to the cemetery.
I don't remember. It's been 6 years since I read it.
Yeah, I think that's right. I wouldn't say.
It may be grounds. It may be the Presbyterian grounds.
Could be.
Facilities.
Yeah. I don't remember. It's been years ago since I read it, but that's the money has to be dispersed only on those grounds. And I think a good lawyer would argue that that's part of the grounds, the old structure.
Yeah, it's a perpetual charitable trust, which is about the only kind of perpetual trust you can have in Georgia. And the Attorney General ultimately is responsible for enforcing it.
Here again, if we're not willing to spend money now to preserve the building, I think we need to transfer it. Because at the end of the day, the county lets it fall in, it's gonna fall on whoever's sitting at this table for the responsibility of that. I don't see where we're gonna come up with the money any more than the city can to preserve that building.
I want to say, in speaking with the mayor of Danielsville, that they had about 12,000 built up off the 60,000 that can be spent. And the good part is you can only spend it back on that property. They may have the money to put a roof on it. They may have the money to clean the headstones and re-level.
But here again, the city has expressed a willingness to take the property.
Correct. Just to clear up matters, I mean, it's not like they want it for any other reason other than the fact to just try to clear the accounts up.
That would be why I would have a concern, if they stated the reason that we want it is to ensure preservation, because we have potentially the funds to do so.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what they're saying. They're saying that we want to make sure that the money goes to it. We just don't want to have to cut the county a check to reimburse the county for the county putting this in it when we have the fund. Just trying to put a direct funding source directly to the project. All right.
I make a motion that are we ready for?
Sure.
that? I make a motion that we convey the Presbyterian Church and the adjacent cemetery to the city of Deansville.
I have a motion by Mr. Adams. Have a second?
I'll second discussion.
Discussion?
Not a simple answer on any of it, we still hadn't come to, the three, it's one of the three buildings that in my mind are outside of Watson's Mill Bridge, or what sort of define Madison County history. They had the courthouse and the Strickland House, and we hadn't really, here, we hadn't come up with anything.
I agree, that they hadn't. And again, that's one of those quandaries, if what we're wanting is some kind of assurance, I don't know, I mean, you talked about something from the city saying that their intention is to do so and so.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is that gonna be just something that we would like for them to give us that makes us feel good about?
Or a dissolution clause, or abandonment clause.
Yeah, something like that. And I don't know where that is, and then who knows what that.
We're creating legal terms here for you to.
So you want a reverter for a building that you don't want to start with.
Yeah, and,
We don't want to feel bad about doing something.
yeah, we don't want to feel, yeah, so, I don't know that there's a good answer. I mean, if we leave it like we got it, we still know.
Nothing good's
we know
happening.
nothing's happening.
But I realize a storm, I didn't mean to cut you off with you.
No, that's fine.
I realize a storm or something could tear it up tomorrow. I guess
Sure.
just, again, my thought process was, if there's an intent from the city, we'd just like to know. If not, we're gonna vote, and if they accept it, it's gonna be a quick claim deed with no stipulations, and they can put a bulldozer on it tomorrow. And that's it. I mean, and then, we didn't either, to me, we didn't do our due diligence by not asking what the intent is.
Well, I asked them, and I said it was to take the money to be able to try to keep the cemetery up. And they have the potential to do that, we don't.
So, I guess, just backing up a step, do you think that the city is willing to give us,
I'm sure they'll give you whatever they want. They just tell you to keep it.
memorandum of understanding, has Derek suggested?
It has to be,
Yeah.
a long extended, prolonged something, it can just be simple.
That they're not going to, their intention is not to demolish it, I guess, or whatever.
What I heard,
They'll gain a 75 by 75 square foot, nothing.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but what I heard Commissioner Doster say was not some binding contracts with the city, but and I can get with the city attorney, we can do this as a non-binding MOU or a non-binding joint resolution, whatever, but it would just be a statement of intent. And it would not legally prevent them from knocking it down the next day, but there would be a public statement on record from both the city council and the board of commissioners.
That sounds great.
That sounds good. I agree with that.
For discussion, in my scratching around trying to figure out a solution to this, I have talked to one person in particular who actually is in the county who would be willing to take one or more of these buildings with the agreement that they would be preserved, and he would use them for office spaces or room as office spaces. If that is a direction that we want to consider, I think I probably could get him to come in and address the board, and if we want to think about those as opportunities.
But that would be the building itself, so.
Correct. That would not.
I guess we would have to take the building and separate it from the, cemetery, right?
That would be my thing.
I spoke with that gentleman today, I think, and he said he would be willing to take the other one and preserve it. That's the one you're talking about, the other one?
Well, he said any of the
Any of them?
three he would be interested in, that would be his design. Now, he's not talking about buying the buildings.
No.
He's talking about, but if he had
Correct.
the buildings, he would restore them, and his return on that is he would create office spaces in there. So if we're thinking about the exterior of the building is what we're interested in, then we might want to consider that as an option to keep those buildings standing and secure and.
Talking about in their current locations?
Yes, correct, in their current location. Yeah, when I talked to Al Stone, he really quickly told me that when you're talking about historical significance, where they are is almost as important to him as the building. I tried to share with him, what my thinking was, particularly on the Strickland house, was offer it for sale to somebody to move to a different location in the county with understand they would restore it and make it available for public use to some level. And that's why I pitched that to Al as he's representative of the Historical Society. And he was very adamant in his mind, particularly on the Strickland house, where it sits is very important. So at that point, I kind of backed off from that.
It's not the same guy.
Well,
When I said one
No. But the other person I'm referring to was interested in having the buildings, and he would restore them and rent them out as professional offices, CPAs, whatever. But the structure itself would be there and intact. So if that's, if we're concerned about the exterior appearance and that icon staying there, then that could be an avenue. But if we're, if we're more in tune to historic significance than complete historic preservation, then we might not, that'd be a road we would not go down.
And I guess that after you saying that, I would be more inclined that if that's something that, if you took the lead on it, that we might want to look at before we made a decision.
I'll be glad to work on making that contact and see if he'd be interested in coming addressing us.
Yeah, the building, and it's just my personal opinion, but the building's about 30% of what I see out there. I'm more worried about the actual grave sites and the, I don't know if y'all walked this thing lately, but there's a lot of the 5-foot statues out there that's already leaning about 25, 30 degrees. And we got some trees now that's growing up in it that I'm afraid is going to potentially protrude, because they're newer trees, 12, 15-year-old trees, not necessarily the older ones, but it's only going to take that great big oak to lose a limb. And this is the things that I'm concerned with, not necessarily the structure. I'm more concerned with the actual cemetery.
So,
But I agree with your point, so 100%, yeah.
I know we got a motion out there, but I guess what I'm looking at is, so could we potentially look at, as someone mentioned, is to split the property, cemetery, and maybe we do convey that to the city, because
City would like that. That's exactly what they
that
asked.
could only trust, and then the building, if we're concerned about the building staying intact, this other option may be convey it to someone else. And so,
Well, we'd have to go out for bid for that, wouldn't we?
well,
Yeah,
We'd have to go through the process.
we'd have to go through the process, but,
And we may find there's more interest
yeah,
in.
you're right.
yeah, there are, and Derek may know more a lot, I don't know much about historic preservation, but, they can get those tax credits and whatnot and still convert it to some sort of commercial use, so
Right,
there might be some interest.
right. So,
There's different levels of restoration. There's, neoclassical, what you think is putting it right back to go see, Jefferson's house versus preserving, structural stability for, repurposing, and, you have an exterior look. There's different levels, and I just, again, personally, I think, at least people I've talked to would like some sort of avenue to try to pursue some of that. Again, I realize there's liabilities out there, however, I'm just a little reluctant right now to basically just sign off on a blanket, quitclaim deed that says, here you go. And I get it, and, I don't know if that means a substitute motion for, a table for 30 days to maybe run down a few of these options, or.
That's what I suggest, if y'all don't mind, to table this until table this specifically until the next business meeting, with the intent of trying to get, one or more of these interested parties in here to address us at the next, planning meeting.
Yeah, I agree.
I think the Danielsville would be more than happy to do that.
So that's a substitute motion to postpone until July 25th?
Yeah, postpone action on this item until the 26th with the intent of bringing some proposals, or at least some concepts of these proposals to us at our next planning meeting.
Denny, you okay with that?
I'm good with that.
Okay.
So now, Mike, would there be any issues in separating the property legally from two different surveys or whatever?
Well, it shouldn't be. Now, if the city of Danielsville owns it, you know, they're not covered by their own zoning. If this goes out to some private entity to do a historical restoration, then, you know, city of Danielsville is gonna have to work with that person, or we are, or all three of us to meet setbacks and minimum lot requirements, and it might take some work on Danielsville's end to get that into the zoning ordinance.
So we need to have Danielsville definitely in the loop.
Yeah. So I'll use yours as the motion, what he stated for the motion. And I'll look for a second.
I think Mr. Adams gave you one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, second. I'm all for it, so I guess,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to make sure who's handling who, so
That'd
you're
be
gonna
great.
talk with the city,
Yeah.
Todd, I guess?
Sure.
Okay, there we go.
Does Dennis need to withdraw?
No, the substitute motion, once it's approved, it's gonna wipe out the original.
Yep.
And I have a substitute motion by Mr. Chandler, a second by Mr. Adams.
And then we have several different ways we could look at that. I mean, we depending on where any of this
Yep.
goes, we could, as the county, maintain ownership of the church structure and deed to the city, the cemetery. So there's a lot of different
That's what I'm
opportunities.
saying, I just was, it's sort of action items, that we're gonna have some concrete stuff coming back, yeah.
Good, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so I don't remember who was last.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Unanimous, thank you. I think that'll work out best for everybody.
If you'll contact your guy, I'll contact mine, it may end up being the same person.
It's only one I was told about was the other house up by the rec department.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, he said he would take it and remodel it, but he'd move it.
Yeah.
But he wanted to make sure that the other person that you're referring to was good with it, because he knows he's not.
Yeah.
Um,
He's been in a conversation all along.
cool. New business. Road updates. I'll give you mine first. The road work on White Fence Road, Moongas Road, and Staple Road has been completed. If any of y'all been getting phone calls on those, they are done. Rumble strips, Dennis, has been installed at the intersection of Crabapple Hollow and Sanford Road. Concrete pipe was replaced at Virginia Lane. The tire mounting and balance machine has been purchased and are online working currently. This has saved the county a lot of money in the past 3 months. I forgot to tell you it was online working. I thought we was waiting on electrical, but they've already got it took care of. The brush grappler attachment has arrived and will help clean up with the storm debris or any other debris cleanup. This is an attachment for a skid steer. Just for the public, the Bush Hog crews have completed the Harrison area. One crew is moving to the Nice Commerce area, and another crew will be moving to the Macedonia Church area, headed towards the Jotundown area. Our second sidearm has been repaired, which has been down for about a month waiting on parts. Sidearm crews will be headed towards Buford Cary Road and Adams Clark Road. For the public, please be mindful of the road work being done in these areas because they're pretty dangerous and we don't want our employees injured while being on the side of the road with the slow-moving vehicles.
I know that when I was in there the other day, did y'all have an opportunity to look at your Royal Woods Road at all?
Yes, as a matter of fact, Linda's not here now, but I was told today that we don't even have an easement on that road. So we'll have to start from scratch of requiring easements for Royal Woods Road.
So we can get the ditches and
That's correct.
everything.
We would love to do it, but we gotta have the right way to do it.
All right, that answers the questions. I got a lot of folks down there that are asking about that.
You mentioned the armed bush hogs. I actually had talked to Derek Horn about it, and Derek Elster, I had a friend of mine who lives in your district, goes to church with us. He mentioned on Wagner's Grove Church Road, they've got a lot of low-hanging limbs.
Yes. So we rode Wagner Grove Church Road Friday, and, I had a phone call this morning about it, and they're waiting on today's rain, supposedly some night rain coming in today or tomorrow. As soon as they get it, they're headed down that road. That's the very next road they're starting on, Wagner Grove Church. I told them to not only blade that road, clip the shoulders, pull the ditches, do our setbacks, and cut our limbs. I said, I want everything at a 6-foot minimum because of fire trucks or anything else, because this time of the year is the perfect time because the greenery will pull the limbs down. It's a good opportunity to cut them because we know what to cut. And I told them to load that road heavy with gravel.
One of those things I always think about, we have a lot of people at the motor homes now,
That's
that's
correct.
pretty high clearance.
Yeah. 13.6, the top of the air conditioning.
Doing damage to the units on those.
If y'all haven't seen Stapler Road, go down it. This was a road that was not much more than 8 foot wide. Have you seen it since it's done? It's nice now.
Yes.
It's very nice. It's, that is the standard that we've set for all the future dirt roads, until they become asphalt. And Alan and the guys, just done a great job. I don't have anything else on roads. Derek?
I don't have anything in that.
I don't have anything. Just what I mentioned. Very good. I mean, I know we just talked directly to Derek.
I know. Yep. And please do. We had a gentleman, Friday, and he's like, when y'all gonna do something around? I said, if we don't know it, we can't fix it. We can't ride all the roads all the time. And I ask for EMS, fire, and sheriff's office to try to keep us updated on where the bad roads are. But we don't mind input. I don't mind my phone ringing. I got a list on the back of the wall. I'll add every one of them to it.
And I have mentioned before, Derek has always been very responsive.
Oh.
Yeah. And there's been, I got, as I think I stated, I've got some emails from folks that, said that they, appreciated what the county has done because they, especially in that clearing where you're talking about cutting those areas. Some people said we've done it for the first time and they have known of that it's been done in some areas, so they were very pleased.
So under urgent matters, I'm gonna have to ask for a motion to approve a settlement plan for the opioid, litigation against Purdue Pharmacies LP. Y'all have a brochure here. Mike can fill us in a little bit more on it, but this is I think a national thing more so than anything.
That's right. I don't remember who, if anybody, was on the board when this started. Maybe Brian and Derek, but Madison County, along with most, if not all, counties in Georgia and around the country, are part of the litigation against the pharmacy companies over opioids. One of those companies, one of the big ones, Purdue Pharma, has declared bankruptcy. So they have finally negotiated in bankruptcy court, again on a national basis, a plan for them to put several $1 billion into a fund that will be distributed among the states, and then among the states to the local, between the state and the local government. So the bankruptcy court has said this plan to put the money there will be approved if 2/3 of the litigants in this opioid litigation approve it. So counties all over the country are doing what you're doing here. We're represented, as are a lot of counties in Georgia, by Blasingame Birch, and they are recommending that we vote to approve this. So we can move on.
This just puts our name in the hat. So, need a motion to approve or deny?
Make a motion, we pursue these.
Second. I have a motion by Mr. Adams, a second by Mr. Chandler, and
Yes.
unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen. Let them know, Mike, we need a little money. Statements, remarks from citizens.
Let me ask one question before we get into that. Is there anything that we need to do to further the activity on Burke-Leachman Road?
No, sir. You've already done it, so got the letters going out. You should see the ad in the paper, and then we'll have our hearing on the 26th, 8th, whenever. July meeting is.
Remarks from any citizens or statements? Remarks from any of the commissioners or statements? One thing, check your email, guys, because Kathy's trying to get some dates coordinated for our public hearing for the mill rate.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I can't stop to talk, but, couple of questions or comments. Can you check with 911? I mean, when we did about the building, you know, that, you know, it was hot and heavy at first because we had to have the new building to get the new system put in. That changed, however, I think that money in the SPLOST program is still there for that facility, so, and just what kind of planning effort, I mean, when we changed horses, the urgency wasn't there, but I guess my desire is to, where are we at and what kind of planning effort we need to do, and follow up later is fine. It's just, that was something I was thinking about today. And then the other couple things were, you know, and a lot of this wraps into the conversation we were having with Mr. Hightower, and I'm sure he was disappointed in where things went. However, it just brings to light to me that a lot of this stuff we end up doing on the fly. You know, we're starting to talk about a comp plan. I haven't seen a scope of work that needs to be done. I know there's a planning meeting that's coming soon.
July the 13th.
I don't know if a scope of work would be, you know, established at that point in time. The comprehensive plan update, you know, future land use plan, where these things are going, where we want the Bs of the world to be at. I mean, you know, all that, and then the text amendments and the other kind of things, that, it all goes hand in hand. And again, I hope people don't see it that we're anti-business. I hope they see it as we're just cautionary on making spot decisions, you know, or we're concerned about those, you know, what, you know, everybody can have their opinion whether they agree or disagree with the decision, but at least we're being deliberate about the conversation and where all that goes in. And which, you know, and I mentioned the ordinances is, you know, I know y'all seen the email, or at least I think you seen the email from one of my constituents that was asking about the noise ordinance. And, you know, prime example tonight, if we rezone that to B, there's no condition on B anymore. So, when I turned in the report, you know, I asked that, you know, it start being considered, and if we need to assign that to outside resources, or, you know, ask RDC to look at it, or ask, you know, the company that did the proposal, you know, or they did the study to give us a proposal on what it would cost to actually do a noise ordinance, or if, you know, if staff can take that on. I don't know the answer to that. I'm just saying I'd like it to be moved forward to some degree. And, you know, and I know it all kind of is a big ball of wax together, but we got to start tackling some things, or we won't be able to move forward with some stuff.
Yeah. I want to say Friday we received an email from Eva Kennedy about the scope of work. I've seen something somewhere that's came across my desk just recently, but it may be by email, but it's got to do with the scope of work on comments. Right? It may have come from Anna.
We probably, Anna. Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah. We probably need to, you know, I'd like to see some of those things like in yours that actually show up on our planning agendas for some discussion, you know, like, you know, looking at the noise ordinance and those kind of things, you know.
Mike, do you have a firm voting on that?
What?
On the noise ordinance, you got a pretty good footing on that?
Yeah, I was going to say, I volunteer. I think that's something I could put together a draft for the board to look at if you want to. Now, again, we were talking about how this affects existing businesses, particularly one, and to avoid, you know, getting in litigation with them, we would probably want to have some communication with them on that. But I can give you something that's a starting point if you want.
That would be great. Something we can build off of.
Okay.
Perfect.
I mean, prime example, and again, not saying to live in the conversation or belong in it, but if it went to be, you know, tomorrow, again, without stipulations, the jet engine manufacturer repair team could go in there, and what the neighbor's gonna say about that. I mean,
anything that's allowed under B.
Yeah.
Well,
can have
well, much of this is, and I expressed some concern to Todd today about it. We have so many departments in the courthouse here that are acting as their own entities
Independently.
without any correspondence, not only with the department next door, just down the hall from them, but with us, which leads us to situations like we have with Zach Hightower in here. And at the end of the day, I'm deeply concerned that this young man, in fairness to him, it really causes me pain to him wanting to establish a business that directly across the road from one of his driveways is assigned for a business. And then from his driveway, you can see a grading contractor there that literally unloads and loads equipment on the county road because he can't get it in his driveway. He's got so much of it. And I don't know where the median's at in that, but,
And I don't want to keep this any longer, but I think that comprehensive plan, which I haven't been able to meet, and I know Terry's been very involved with it and some others, but I appreciate that, number one, Terry, and number two, I think it's important that we all sort of get involved in that to some extent, I mean, and look at that, because as I've gone to the meetings, I know the folks in the agricultural part of the county are very concerned about that, because, you know, business coming in impacts them. Also, you know, the businesses folks are gonna be impacted, and it's vice versa, and we need to really come up with a good plan. I can see now, especially with some of the situation like today, and I've been going through the zoning book. So I've got a little more time than y'all, because I'm at home now and I haven't started back to work with. So I've been going through that, and I've also looked at Franklin counties, which Linda has provided me with a copy of, and they've gone through some of the same stuff, and they've made some changes that I see that we could probably institute, and I'm sure Mike's very familiar, especially this agro-business type thing.
Yeah,
that might be
I mean, another option, obviously, a lot of counties around, I think Jackson County, Oconee County, I think Hall County, have gone to a unified development code that puts all of your permitting ordinances with your subdivision regulations and your zoning ordinance in one document, so that developers and citizens can go to one place and figure out what they need to do. That would be a much bigger undertaking than our comprehensive plan process has been in the past, but to editorialize, that should be, I mean, I think Mr. Chandler might agree that, you know, our comprehensive plan process could have more participation and be more robust than it's been in the past.
Well, you know, I think on the comprehensive planning too, you know, for years and years, we've been told that Highway 72 is going to be the growth corridor in the county, particularly in regards to business and all. And we've been oblivious to what's been happening in Jackson County. And I think that we're going to find ourselves overwhelmed up there just by overflow from Jackson County, from all the industrial development that they have, that people are going to be looking to establish subdivisions in our county, and it's going to be in a place we never envisioned there being subdivisions.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And for better or worse, we've already primed the pump on that by having a water line on the Mize Road extension up there, where there's water available in a little pocket of the county that is just absolutely right for somebody to come in and put a high-density subdivision there that 5 years ago, if somebody had mentioned it to me, I would have laughed at it. But I see that happening.
Your water and sewer, and I've seen this in other counties, got the benefit of watching in Oconee County, your water and sewer map will become your future land use map.
Exactly.
Yes, that's right. Absolutely.
It falls to us to define where that.
That's right.
And it becomes a catch-22, because you've got to move water, you gotta have fire protection. You know, we don't have one reservoir in the county, so we're reluctant, or it's hard to, you have to get multiple sources, so, it is, government's not easy, Nope. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Golf is hard.
For $964 a month, you'd think it would be.
We paying Mike that much?
All right. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Unanimous. Thank y'all for enduring this long evening.
Good meeting, gentlemen.
Yep, thank you.
Are you gonna,